My man, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you great. What about me? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
What's up, man?
How are you, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
It's a good day to have a good day.
Yes, sir.
We find you at home today?
Yeah, nah, actually, I'm working from the office today.
Okay.
Friday in the office.
Fun. Yeah, any weekend
Yeah.
plans?
Nah, I got it. Yeah. Well, actually, my daughter, she's in the band, so she got
Okay.
she on drum line, so she
No.
got the battle of the bands tomorrow
Mhm.
morning, and actually at Six Flags. So go have us some fun tomorrow and kind of kick it with that. Have
Man,
church on
that's,
Sunday.
yep. Do you speak every Sunday?
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm a youth
Yeah.
pastor here,
Mhm.
and a young adult pastor, and sometimes I fill in. Yeah. So either I'm speaking here at the church ministering, or I'll be on the road or something like that. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. Which part of all that do you love the most? Do you love to speak to everybody the most in the church, or is there something else that you like better?
I no, the part that I love, I would think I like to do outreach.
Mm.
I
Youth?
like to take it outside of the church.
Oh, okay.
I like to take it and I like it all. I think for me the ministry, the best ministry part for me is after speaking. The speaking part is for me to just open up doors for relationships. I like to serve people.
Oh,
Like I like that. I like afterwards where God to use me to say something and I can love on a person afterwards, hug the person afterwards, like build on that part of it for me. Like the speaking part for me is not it, like because God get the glory for that one. It's more so afterwards that I get a chance to really meet the people and serve them and make those connections and help them and baptize them and you know what I'm saying, pray with them and all of that good stuff. So yeah,
man, that's the good work, isn't it?
yes, yes,
That's the
yes,
stuff that that's the stuff that makes it so worth it. I tell you what,
yeah,
that
yeah.
but it's interesting. I love your I'll throw this out to you. I love your perspective on it. I didn't even know we were going to go this direction, but why not? So I have this thought process that they talk about Jesus. Okay.
Mhm.
And in my belief and in most Christian beliefs, we understand that after we come back resurrected, we're going to come back as perfect beings, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Physically, right? So any of the little children that have I've got a really good friend of ours that has a boy who's an amazing human and he has Down syndrome. And
Mhm.
so, he'll come back perfectly resurrected, right? And so when Jesus came back resurrected, he chose to come back with the scars, the nail prints.
Mhm.
So I submit to people this all the time, and I'd love to know how this hits you. If Jesus came back perfectly imperfect and showed his people, showed his tribe, his scars, why don't we lead with our scars to find our authentic tribe?
I actually I definitely that's how I lead. No, like because I understand and see it just like that. This is why that's exactly what I just explained to you. That's the part that I love that, because I can be in front of these people speaking and they can see, you see the lights, you see the camera, you see the stage, you see that I need to, and you don't speak, but when you sit down and you get a chance to, I'm able to share with you why I got a half a mouth. I'm able to share with you, where I've been, where I come from, and it's just like Jesus did. So I love that. That is it for me.
Man, that's so
So
good.
yeah.
Has the
Mhm.
speaking always been natural to you? I see you speaking all over social media, and especially when you go back into the jails and into the
Yeah.
prisons. One thing that I love that I took from one narrative, actually two things, but one thing that you said is you said, I didn't have to be here, but I felt like a piece of me was still here.
Right.
When you go
Can
back
you? Yeah.
when you explain that piece, because for a lot of people on this side of the fence that I deal with, they think that's crazy that guys like you and I go back in.
Made that statement because it's true. Like I if it wasn't for prison, I would not be able to be doing what I'm doing right now. I wouldn't see life the way that I see it. My perspective wouldn't be as it is. My heart wouldn't be as genuine as it is. Like I prison saved my life. And people be like, well, what do you mean by that? And when I mentioned a piece of me still there, my faith was built in prison. Like it was the lowest time of my life to where I needed God the most. I learned what true strength is. I learned what patience is for real, for real. It's one thing to say you have patience out here, but out there, not being able to just leave, not being able to eat what you want, not being able to do what you want. So when I mentioned a piece of me is still there, meaning that I escaped that reality. I escaped it. And now I'm in a position to go back and help it. So a piece of me will always be there because I experienced the lowest of the low. And so now I got a chance to help someone else out of that place. And so that's what I meant by that. And so that's why every chance I get to enter a prison, to write letters to a prison, to serve a prison, man, I love to take advantage of it because I know what it takes to make a person day. I know what it takes to give somebody hope. So that's what it meant for me.
Mm. And so take the people back, when you were just a young teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the story, but for the people who don't, take people back. How were those teenage years? How was it growing up? And how did you find yourself even incarcerated, let alone, I'm not going to spoil it for everybody, let alone facing the sentence that you were facing? Tell people about that.
Right. So just my story, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A couple minutes from the college LSU campus, where it was one of the worst neighborhoods that I've ever experienced. Growing up, seeing murders on the regular, the crack cocaine epidemic around the time that I was coming up. So it was bad. And so I found myself at 15 years old being charged with murder and 2 counts of armed robbery at a young age. Evidence didn't show that I did anything or nothing like that, but I didn't have no money for the right representation. And down there, if you don't, you know how it goes. If you don't have money or you don't have the right representation, you could be so innocent and you can still get railroaded and threw away. And that's what happened. I just thought that long as I just be quiet and don't say nothing, that I'm gonna come home, but it didn't go like that. And so I went to trial with a public pretender. Um, they pretend to defend you. Not all of them like that now, but I went to trial with that, and so I got found guilty, and I was sentenced. I wasn't facing. I was actually sentenced to life plus 90 years in prison without the benefit of parole. Because in Louisiana, like I travel different places speaking now, but in Louisiana, one of the states to where it's different. Like you're sentenced to die. So I was sentenced to die. So when I got my rap sheet, it didn't have no out date, wasn't no parole date, wasn't none of this. And so I was sentenced to life plus 2 45-year sentences running wild, which equaled up to 90 years. Life plus 90 without the benefit of probation and parole at 15 years old. They
Mm.
tried me as an adult and they sent me to Angola. Angola, one of the bloodiest, biggest prisons in the world. And so, yeah, they put me on this bus, handcuffed me to this man with this big old afro, as I look back now, that had 300 and some years for armed robbery and rape. And they shipped me up the road, and I ended up in this prison. And it was bad. It was bad. The experience was bad, man. The first day, and you can stop me whenever you want
No,
to
no, no,
stop
go,
me.
go, go. No, no, no. I love it.
Um, All right. And so I remember the first day that I got here, this is what was so crazy about it, because I'm traveling on this long road. You get to this long road because coming up, I heard the stories of Angola. Like if you're from Louisiana, you know, you hear about this prison. But what you never hear about is that nobody coming home. So
Mm,
like they know once you go here, you're gonna die. Like nobody never get out. Anybody that have ever tried to escape, they die. They don't, it's so big to where they never make it off the ground. So you hear all of these stories. You hear the stories of how people bust through the wall and get to people and stab them up and rape them and stuff like this. So I'm hearing these stories coming up. Like my uncles and stuff used to try to use that as scare tactics, right? For to even stop us from getting in trouble and stuff. And so here it was. I found myself on the road going to Angola with Life Plus 90 years. And I remember the first day that we went there, they take you into intake. And what's so crazy is to where intake is on death row. And so the first day I'm getting here, I'm 15 years old, I'm in intake, and what reads here is death row. So
mm,
I'm just like, oh my God, man. And so I ended up in there. And at first I was so little and so young that they didn't put me straight into population. They put me on lockdown, where they had other juveniles that was too young and too small to go in population. So I stayed on lockdown for like a year and a half. And so I was able to convince them that I can handle myself in population. And so I ended up going into population, man. And I remember the first day I entered the prison, man, I stabbed somebody because, you know, you had to make a name. Like I meant that I was gonna, you know, be a stand-up guy, man. And so I stayed in this prison, never seeing nobody coming home, never having hope, none of this. Like I didn't have no hope at all. Um, like I say, we didn't have a lawyer. Um, and I remember one day my fall partner come to me. He was like, Dunk, if we ever gonna get out of here, like, bro, you gotta pray. And I
mm.
remember I told him, like, man, I don't know how to pray. Because I thought I didn't. I thought I didn't know how to pray because I would see all of these pastors use these big old sophisticated words, and I didn't know none. You know, I didn't have any words that I knew, but I all I knew was cuss words. But I knew not to come to God cussing, you know, and but he told me something that stuck with me to this day that have blessed my life. He said, nah, man, like come to God the way you are and ask him for something that's too big for man to do. And for me, that was my freedom. And I
Mm,
would pray every day. I would pray every day um, for 10 years credit for time served if I ever go back. And this high priced lawyer named Lenny Perez. And the thing about it was Lenny Perez used to charge 500,000 to even take your case. Now, mind you, and at this time we didn't have no money. Like we really grew up poor. I grew up eating serve sandwiches. Like we didn't have nothing. And some people probably know, but the rap, you ever heard, you listen to rap music? You ever
oh
heard of
yeah.
Boosie? The
Oh
Boosie?
yeah, I'm
Have you
familiar.
heard of? Okay, okay. So at this time though, Boosie wasn't no rapper. Like we didn't have no money or nothing. So 500,000 was like, it's no way. But I remember he told me to pray for something that man couldn't do. And I used to pray for Lenny Perez to take my case. And if I ever go back at this time, I've been down 4 years and 6 months. I used to pray for two things, Lenny Perez and 10 years credit for time served. And I would pray it so much to where I started believing it. I really didn't understand it, but my behavior was still bad. I'm fighting, I'm drugging, I'm doing everything. And my case kept getting denied, kept getting denied, kept getting denied. And this may be for somebody that may watch this now or at a later date. My case kept getting denied every time. And then one day they had this older guy. He was mopping the floor, and he came. I was because I had missed my work duty, so I had to do in dorm duty. So I remember I was sitting on the bed, and he came by me. He was mopping. He was like, "Hey, young man," I'm like, "What's up?" He was like, he said, "I see that you be praying all the time." He say, "But you could pray all you want if your behavior is not lining up with what you're doing." He said, "Because I see you around here like giving the POs, giving the COs hell. I'm seeing you into drugs. I'm seeing you doing everything. He say, but man, you're special. He say, because he was a believer. He said, man, listen, God want to bless you. And that was it. And it's like something just stuck with me because I had just got denied on my appeal. And instantly, I'm like, you know what? I really want to get out of here. Let me see if this whole truth to what he's saying. I started changing my behavior, and I started doing the right thing. Not all the way, but I started seeing myself not being involved with the drugs, not being involved with certain people. And I start this thing of walking the yard. I will put earphones on and I will walk the yard. And I would start using my words. I started speaking to the airplanes. People used to look at me like I was crazy, right? But airplanes used to pass over the prison yard, and I started speaking to them like, one day I'm gonna be a speaker, and I'm gonna be speaking in Atlanta. One day that plane I'm gonna speak in the Bahamas. One day that plane I'm gonna speak in Canada. I started speaking these things because I saw what the word said. The word said in Proverbs 19 that if I speak life and not death, I will eat the fruit of what it is that I'm speaking. So I literally took that scripture to heart and I started speaking. And then I started visualizing myself at these places that I was speaking at. Listen to me. Everywhere I have ever spoke about walking on that yard, today I have traveled and spoke at those places. This how real this is, because my situation was, mind you, I had life plus 90 years. But I understood the principles. This is what I'm sharing with somebody. Listen, y'all, the principles work. And so I started speaking that, I'm going to get the favor of God. And one day I was reading the newspaper. And the headline read, 2 Baton Rouge teams sentence and convictions overturned. I'm reading it. It's my name in the newspaper. I hadn't called home because if you got a life sentence, the outside world and me don't even mix. So I hadn't called home in like a year and a half or so. And so I'm reading it. I dropped the paper. And so I had this guy that was on side of me in the cell with me. His name was Swamp Man. We used to call him Swamp Man because he smelled like a swamp, right? So, and it was his newspaper. His family used to send him newspapers. And so I read it. And so he read it. He was like, man, whatever these guys is, man, these some lucky MFers, they're going home. Like, I literally jumped in his arms. Like, I'm telling you, like. And so that's how I found out that my case was overturned. Yeah. That's how I found out my case was overturned. Yeah, that's how I found out right there that my case was overturned. And so they didn't just let me straight out. They granted me a new trial. Same courtroom, same DA, same judge. The only thing different was now I was different. Now I'm walking in here as a man of faith, straight up. That's all I had. Let me rewind a little bit. The lawyer, Lennon Perez, he took my case for free.
No.
Listen, $500,000 lawyer took my case for free. So now we back into the court. The same appeal that I had filed and everything, he didn't have to do nothing. All he did was came to court with me. So when I went back for a trial, they dressed me out in a suit. He came to the tank. They was like, hey, Mr. Webb, you got an attorney visit. He called me out. He had like this long white hair, right? And he was like, hey, Carvis, we got some good news and some bad news. Which one you want to hear first? And, I'm like, hey, give me the bad news. Because if I can handle the bad news, I'm good with that. And he said, they're coming at you with a plea bargain, a best interest plea bargain. I'm like, well, what they talking about? He said, listen, they're coming at you with credit for time served, 10 years. And that's the 2 things I used to pray for. He don't know this. And so, man, that's how I got out of prison. I took a best interest plea, that it was in my best interest to take the plea deal. And so I ended up coming home 6 months later. And that's how I always travel and say, like, hey, man, I prayed my way out of a life sentence. It wasn't no money did it. It wasn't no nothing. It was just me standing on the principle, but it wasn't until I aligned my behavior up with what it is that the word of God was saying. And that's how I ended up coming home.
It's incredible. Golly, there's so many people off the top of my head that listening to this that I know personally behind these, walls on both sides of the wall, like that need to hear that story. I love to, as you do, pour life into people. And one of the greatest things that I love to tell people is like the worst concrete and razor wire, none of those are the worst limiting beliefs in the world. The worst limiting beliefs in the world come right up top between
Yes.
two ears.
Yes, most definitely.
And I love that story, man. I do. It inspires the heck out of me. And I'm grateful that you shared it with me. Couple questions for you. I want to talk about courage for a moment.
Okay.
In today's world, it takes a lot of courage for guys like you living where you're living with a background like you have. It takes a lot of courage for you to keep telling your story, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that look at you a certain way from a distance. A lot of people that, right? How do you continue to maintain that courage to be authentically you?
What did it for me? Because I'm real. Like at first I didn't understand because I was one of the worst of the worst in our state and everything. So like I was him. And I used to wonder, like, man, like how people about to look at me like I never did the right thing. Like I've never let's get this understood. Like I never did the right thing. Nobody never said nothing great about me. Like I was always the one in trouble, always the one to go fight, always the one to go shoot. Like so, I lived up to this reputation that the world had gave me. Now, this was the shift for me though. The shift was for me to where once I decided to say, you know what, I would rather live, not die. The things that I'm involved with is two things that can happen. Either I'm going to go to prison because I kept going, or I'm gonna die. Like there's no other way. That's why the game is called ball till you fall. So I was tired of falling, and I was smart enough to understand that. So I was like, you know what? Like there's no great ending of doing the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? And so once I got an understanding of it, I'm like, wow, I can take this same hustle and the same energy and the same drive that I'm pushing in to live up to this reputation that the world has deemed me at, and I can do the right thing. And I start looking at, because I'm smart, like I got common sense. I start looking at what the results will be. Hold up, I stand a chance of being here to catch donuts with dads, with my kids. I stand a chance of being alive when my grandkids get older. I stand a chance of helping other people to get out. And it shift for me once I took a step and people start to talk great things about me. Cause I always said like, man, I don't care what nobody say about me. I did. But once people start saying it feels great for somebody to look at me and say, you know what, man, I'm proud of you. Oh, that gave me the fuel. Like you're proud of me? Like, and my life is making a difference, like somebody to reach out to me and say, because somebody always watching. For somebody to say, like, you know what, Dunk, man, if you change, I can do it. And I'm like, oh my God, like it feels so much better than somebody respecting you for the wrong thing. So that's my fire. That's my fuel. That give me the push because now it's happening all over the world. Like and so it's priceless that my life can be used to give somebody else hope. And that just gives me the courage to just keep going. To just keep going.
And I love that story. Love that. I love that. It's fire. And you talk about that now, right? You're all over the place. You've seen for anybody who can see you on social or can't. I mean, you got everybody, celebrities and A-list and entrepreneurs, everybody talking about you, mentioning you. And so how does your day now? What do you do now when people go, what do you do now on a daily basis? How do you pour into yourself? How do you pour into others? What keeps you busy now?
So, first of all of this is God. Like, listen, all of what you guys are seeing with me is God. I travel everywhere. This is so cool. This the God factor. This separates it, right? I travel around the world speaking. I go in prisons and stuff. I travel, like I do all of this stuff. I don't even have a website. I don't even have a business card. All the stuff, well, now it's happening, but I didn't start with a business card. I didn't start with a website. I'm saying this because maybe there may be somebody watching this thinking like you gotta have all of this stuff to get started. No, I didn't. All I did was submit it. Now, on a daily basis, what I do is I have this one go-to thing that I do every day. It's called 111. It's called 111. 1 hour of prayer, 1 hour of reading my word, and 1 hour of praise and worship. I do that every morning before I do anything. And the reason why I do that, because I always got to get the play from God, because it's not me that's doing it. And so inside of that, I get the itinerary of what to do on a daily basis. First of all, I'm a man of God. Second, I'm a husband. Like I serve my home first before I go out and serve every other place. And so with that though, you got my wife and my kids. I gotta make sure, like I wake up every morning, I'm ironing clothes. Like these are the things that I miss coming up doing the wrong thing. Like I'm going to be at the Donuts with Dads. Like I have to be there. I have to get up and iron these clothes, right? And so once I leave, and I'm just giving y'all a day in the life with them. Once I leave them, now whatever it is on my itinerary, whether I'm traveling, I'm in position doing ministry here in Atlanta. So I have an office here at the church. I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor here. I go in prisons throughout the week. And so this pretty much everything that I do though, serving is tied to it. It's serving someone else. First is serving God, then everything that I'm doing, I'm serving somebody else. Because what you make happen with others, God will make happen with you. And so that's my life. So when you see the industry people, like I want to serve everybody. I don't care what your belief is. I don't care. My job is to love you right where you are. And so that's what I do.
And it's so beautiful. The fact that we connected is just magical. I talk about this all the time. I say I value add to people. I think most of the people that you and I come in contact with, they're living at about 51% of their potential. That's it. And so I get to value add. I get to look inside of you.
I like that.
And I get to say, yeah, I love that, right? And I go, okay, here's the thing, dog. We get about 78 birthdays, you and I. That's a typical life expectancy of American males. And so I walk that with people. How many of those birthday candles have you blown out? How many of those days have you wasted? What do you want to do with these 78 birthdays? And when you really get it like a finite perspective, you stop wasting these resources. You stop wasting your time. You will stop wasting your money, and you start to be present. I talk with so many guys, so many entrepreneurs who have a lot of work, right? But what I say all the time is go to work and work. Go to work and grind. Don't come home with it. When you go to work, be present. Because when dad comes home, dad sets the tone.
Yeah.
And so I love to pour into people. I love to value add to people because I don't think most people understand their own intrinsic value that God has in front of them. And sometimes it takes folks like you and I that have been in the pit, that have been in the trenches, that have been on those deep, dark waters, treaded them, to tell people, hey, let me show you that there's a better way. Let me show you that there's a better path.
Yes.
So question for you, I want to talk about community. There's a big, right now, I think, whether it's the pandemic or whether it's social media misrepresenting the world, I think a lot of our communities are fractured. You know, if we need a ride to the airport, we call an Uber. If we need a cup of sugar, we don't go to our neighbor, we go to Amazon Prime. And so how do you build a community, whether it's in a prison, in a church, or in your family? Give these guys and gals that blueprint for how do I build a community around me so that I can do, because what happens is naturally you and I have right now hundreds of thousands of people listening to this saying, man, I want to do what these guys do. And I'm on the West Coast, you're in the South. I'm white, you're black. And so we couldn't be more dissimilar if people put up two photos of us, but our hearts are linked. We're the same.
Yes.
So when people go, man, I want to do what these guys do, how do you build that community? How have you built that community?
First of all, I think for me, I know personally, I grew up in the era that we had everything that you said just now that was missing. Like we can go next door and get sugar. I can get a whooping. My mom, if I do the wrong thing, it ain't just have to be my mom. It can be someone in the neighborhood that catch me and keep me on track. But not only that though, we had people that would pour into us that we had to be receptive of. Now I think what has happened is in some places that's missing. So that became the problem with there's a middle part. I like to call it a sandwich, and the meat of the sandwich is missing with the generation of today's time because it takes time for change to manifest. So if it got to happen quick, like you need people, like you need mentors, like you need people to pour into. So for me, one of the things that I do is I be real intentional with making myself available. Um, and I go the extra mile to do that because even with social media, I see that it's done. If you like my picture or you follow me or something on social media or stuff, I have a team in place to where I'm going to make sure that if I could, that I'm able to make a personal connection with that person. And it doesn't matter if it's them getting a like personally from me on their page. What that does is it lets you know that, hey, I see you. Keep going, you know what I'm saying? Like give it up, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so and when you're intentional with doing that, it separates you from the world that has been made to be secluded right now. When the pandemic hit, it put everybody in a dark place pretty much. And what that did was it transformed the world into a place to where gadgets became the go-to. But the difference with the gadgets is there's no emotions with the gadgets. There's no feelings with the gadgets. There's no it's just the battery driven and it's not heart driven. And so for me, I'm heart driven. Like I got a heart to be able to love, serve, and sow into every people. My desire is to love, serve, and sow. And with that, it has built the community because the community needs love. And so everywhere I go, I'm making love available, whether it's through social media, whether it's through the brand that I have, whether it's through speaking engagements, whether it's through, and everybody that's connected to me have to be operating this way. If you're not operating this way, we can't be connected because I'm trying to connect everybody. That's why I don't see color. I see love. I don't see color. I see love. And that's why me and you were able to connect like we did because it's the love. It's the love. It's the love of God. That's all. So yeah.
Yeah, it's big time, man. It's such good stuff. If you look down, look to the future, you looked for clarity. What's the picture for you? Where do you go 5, 10? What's the end goal for you? I always tell people I like to start with the end in mind. What's the end goal for you? And I know that it's not, I'm going to stop at this point, but guys like you and I, we're dreamers. And so when you spend that time, whether it's in the word or whether it's in prayer, whether it's in deep thought, where do you see this going for you? What's the big picture, the vision?
So one of the things that and I'm big on vision, because I believe that without that, you gotta have vision. One of the goals for me is that I want to be able to be in a position that everybody that I see that's hurting, I can help them. I want to be able to really, I want to be able to help everybody, whether they're in prison and don't have the resources to get help, whether it's someone homeless on the side of the street. I want to be able to have hope houses all throughout the country, to where we can have residence for people. I want to be able to send people to college. I just want the resources to be able to speak my heart. I need the resources to be able to speak my heart. And so that's the goal for me. The goal is to touch and leave an impression on countless people that the legacy, when they mentioned Dunk, my legacy was that he extended the love and he blessed so many people. Like I'm never gonna stop this. Like this never gonna stop for me. So the ending goal is for me to never stop and to God call me home, to be that extension to where everybody I meet, they're going to be able to say, Donk served them. And with that, like teams, connections, and different places like that. So that's my goal. Got books and stuff that's on the way now. Yeah, so different things like that. But that's my ending goal.
Man, I love everything about that. Last question for you, and I'm sure you get this a lot. I know I get it a lot, but people always say to me, like, what do I do once I get out? And I want you to frame this question in two ways, because I think there's a lot of people who are mentally incarcerated, who are living in society among you and I, who want to make a change, right? And so you speak from that existence. So let's say I want to make a change and I'm coming out of incarceration, or let's say I want to make a change and I'm miserable with my current life. What do I do? What's my first step? Where do I start?
Okay. So first of all, and that's a great question because I really do get it all the time. And I always just look back and see what it took for me. I have this saying that says, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And you mentioned something. The most powerful thing that we have is that mindset. You have to be able to change your mindset before you even get out physically. So before you get out of the physical lockup, allow your mind to be free before you even get there. And once you're out physically, now there's no limit to what's about to happen to your life. And so I have this thing to where, and it's real simple. I don't know if you guys have ever played spade before, but when you're playing spade, you take the score, you put at the paper, us and them. Well, it's the same way. You put it down on a piece of paper, and I know this sounds elementary, but it works. You write down good and bad. You write down all the good things that you have going on in the present time of you coming home versus all the bad things, like the habits that you have, the things that you want to stop doing, the places and the people you don't want to interact with as you just coming home. You write that on a piece of paper, and this is your target. I'm telling you what it did for me was it gave me a blueprint on what to do and what not to do. And so I started marking things off of the bad things that I wasn't doing no more. Okay, dog, I want to change the way that, because if you're going to change, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You have to picture yourself in these rooms and these places, writing these contracts. Like I pictured myself being who I was today, but I wasn't there yet. And I understood that. And it was okay because I was still part of my environment, a product of my environment, but my mind was free. So for that person that's just getting out, the first thing that you have to do is you got to allow your perspective, your mindset got to shift. Once your mindset shift, that's where you write down what your goals is. You have to have a target of what you're aiming at. You have to have a target of what you're aiming at. And then it has to be from the place of you not going back by any means. Because if it don't line up with these goals, you can't be involved with it. And I did that. And for the person that's just getting out, I'm telling you, if you take just that step gonna lead to something else. Because once your mind free, your actions change. Once your actions change, you won't react to everything. And now your destination, the places you want to go, the things you want to do to change. Now the people that was around you before, because now you're thinking different, you're seeing different, you're moving different. You're not going to connect yourself with bad people. And now you find yourself sitting at some of the tables that you're going to be like, whoa, it's on now. I can't mess this up. And then you just build from there and you continue to build. And it's all about building. But it starts with changing that mindset. If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Man, I love everything about that. I heard this story and they talked about, like you said, as you start to elevate your game, you're around those same people, those same like-minded folks. And so I heard this story that if an eagle is flying and he sees another bird in the distance, that the eagle doesn't get excited or nervous or anxious and doesn't view it as a predator or prey, because only eagles can fly at that same altitude. So it knows it's another.
Yes. That's good. That's good. Nah, that's true. That's real.
It's so real,
Man, I
man.
love that. I love that.
I've loved everything with you, brother. I know you are a busy man, and so I appreciate taking the time. I appreciate you pouring into the people, the community. I appreciate what you're doing. And man, we're going to continue the dialogue, and I'm going to put it out there in the world right now publicly. One day, one of my goals is I want to stand next to you inside a prison, and I want to show people some change. I want to be there with you
Let's
sometime.
do it. Let's do it. We can make that happen. You just one call away, man. You got a brother in me. I thank you for this opportunity. I never take it for granted. And so I love what you're doing. I salute what you're doing. I pray that God continue to just use you to be able to take what he's placed in you from what you've been through to help somebody else. So you always got my blessings, man. I'm always one call away. You need me for anything, you got my number.
Likewise, brother. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you have a blessing, man. Y'all
Likewise,
stay
much love.
up. Hold your head. Yeah.